Prologue: The Mystery of the Ocean. December 5th, 1872. The Atlantic Ocean is vast, vast, and dark like a soul sleeping among the cold waves. At a dim point more than 600 miles west of the Azores, a strange discovery has shaken the entire maritime world. A ship drifting, sails loose, no one at the helm, and not a soul on board. The ship is called the Mary Celeste. When the crew of the Dei Grazia, a British brigantine, discovered the ship, they had no idea that they had just entered one of the greatest and most haunting mysteries in the history of the ocean. The Mary Celeste is not a sunken ship, nor is it a pile of abandoned timber. Instead, it was still going, swaying in the wind as if still manned but all gone. No screams, no distress signals, no blood, no signs of pirates, no major damage, and no bodies to be found. Meals were unfinished, gear intact, cargo still lying in the hold. The lifeboat was gone, yes, but there was no sign that the crew had left in panic. All 10 people on the Mary Celeste, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, and their 2-year-old daughter, had vanished without a trace. A thick fog of time. More than 150 years have passed, and the question remains, what really happened to the Mary Celeste? Was it a freak accident, an act of violence, or a supernatural event beyond human comprehension? Many historians have dug up all the remaining evidence. Theories have been proposed and rejected, from natural disasters to ethanol leaks that caused panic, from mutinies to extraterrestrial intervention. Each theory opens a new maze, and all end in dead ends. No one knows for sure, but what makes people shiver is the feeling of being watched, as if the Mary Celeste was not just a ship, but a living entity, an ancient eye watching those who dare to learn the truth. Some people have studied it so deeply that they fell into depression. Others have been so haunted that they have not slept for years. Is a Mary Celeste a curse? Or is it an invisible door between two worlds? Between light and darkness? Imagine you are a sailor on the Dei Grazia that day. You see a ship drifting aimlessly in the middle of the ocean. The mainsail is torn, hanging limply like a broken arm. No one answers the signal. No smoke, no lights, no movement. You and your crew decide to board the ship to check, and then you enter another world. The captain's cabin is tidy, the tea is still warm. The map is still spread out on the table, with the ink still wet. On the bed, a child's dress is neatly folded. In the kitchen, the stove still has hot coals. On the deck, no blood, no signs of a struggle, but absolutely no one there. It makes your mind reel. How is it possible? A ship cannot travel hundreds of miles on its own in the middle of a stormy ocean. The crew cannot just evaporate like mist in the sun. And if they left in the lifeboats, why did they leave everything behind, including food, water, logs? And most importantly, why were none of them ever found? Ever? Mary Celeste, not a fairy tale. This is not a legend. This is not an April Fool's joke. It's all recorded. Official reports from the British Admiralty, copies of a ship's log, eyewitness testimony. But it's what's recorded that's the strangest thing, because everything can't be explained by conventional logic. Mary Celeste exists as a crack in the wall of reality. A ship silently passing through the sea, carrying unanswered questions, challenging both history and science. A reminder that, between what humans understand, there are always dark places that cannot be reached. The journey begins. In the following chapters, we will turn the pages of this strange diary of time, from the ship's past, the fate of the captain and his family, to the strangest investigation of the 19th century. We will dive deep into theories, hidden truths, and mysteries beyond reason. Be careful, because once you step into Mary Celeste, you will never be the same again. In this chapter, we delve into the history of the Mary Celeste, from its construction, change of ownership, accidents, to the ominous signs before its fateful voyage. Each detail is a bone of mystery. When put together, it can reveal a truth that no one dares to believe. Chapter 2. The Mary Celeste Ship Files. Cracks in cold steel. No legend is born out of thin air. Behind every curse is a series of forgotten details, and the Mary Celeste, even when it was still on the dock, was no ordinary ship. One born from a nightmare, the destined ship. The Mary Celeste did not bear that name for birth. In May 1861, at a modest shipyard in Nova Scotia, Canada, a 282-ton brigantine was launched with the original name Amazon. And like the later cursed ships, the Amazon never had peace. The Amazon's maiden voyage, under the command of Captain Robert McClellan, ended in disaster. McClellan fell seriously ill shortly after leaving port and died a few days later. He was the first person to die on the ship, but by no means the last. Over the next 6 years, the Amazon suffered a series of accidents, collisions, breakdowns, and fatal incidents. It collided with a fishing boat near the English Channel, ran aground in Nova Scotia, suffered a minor fire in its cargo hold, and was even abandoned in New York Harbor after being severely damaged by a hurricane. It was as if some invisible force did not want it to sail. Changing the name, changing fortune, or changing destiny. In 1868, the ship was auctioned for a pittance. The new owner, Richard Haynes, a merchant from New York, decided to completely overhaul the hull, reinforcing the bottom, enlarging the cargo hold, changing the sails, and most importantly, renaming the ship Mary Celeste. This was a controversial decision. According to ancient maritime beliefs, renaming a ship was tantamount to defying Poseidon and was a bad omen. Legend held that if the ship's spirit was not ceremoniously erased from the book of the sea before renaming, the ship's spirit would become angry and drag the daring ship to the bottom of the ocean. There is no record of Haynes performing such a ritual. The structure of a ghost. The Mary Celeste's extraordinary design. From an engineering standpoint, the Mary Celeste was a small 19th century wonder, a 4-inch thick white oak hull that could withstand heavy waves. With its brigantine design, 2 masts, combining a square mainsail and a mizzen sail, the ship could easily glide through harbors and deep seas. The ship was 31 meters long and 7.6 meters wide, with a large cargo hold, a sturdy main deck, and deep holds, allowing for the storage of dangerous goods such as ethanol, pitch, and dyes, flammable but highly profitable items. But this very hold, designed to be sealed and located close to the hold, was later suspected of accumulating toxic gases, leading to one of the most chilling theories, a gas explosion. For the men who shaped fate, Captain Briggs and his crew. Benjamin Spooner Briggs, who undertook the fateful voyage in November 1872, was no daredevil. He was a devout Puritan, living an exemplary life, refusing to accept high-risk cargoes. He only decided to embark on a voyage carrying industrial liquor from New York to Genoa, Italy, believing it to be a safe, short trip and that he could take his wife and children along for a respite at sea. Joining him were Sarah Elizabeth Briggs, his wife, a courageous but quiet woman who wrote to her family with a foreboding message. This voyage is strange. The sea is too calm today. Sophia Matilda, the 2-year-old girl, their firstborn daughter, who should not have been allowed on the liquor ship, but was allowed to go because of favorable weather. 7 professional sailors, all German or Scandinavian, with clean sea records and no criminal records, carefully selected by Briggs. The crew records found after the ship disappeared showed no inconsistencies. All were healthy, skilled, and showed no signs of mutiny. 5. The last voyage, warning signs. The Mary Celeste left New York on November 7, 1872. The weather was reportedly good. The ship was carrying 1,701 barrels of ethanol, a flammable industrial alcohol that is stable if properly stored. According to the log, the ship passed Newfoundland on the 25th, then suddenly, no more signals. The last entry in the log was dated November 25th, just a few hundred nautical miles from the Azores, an area where, more than a week later, the Dei Grazia would discover her adrift, derelict, as if no one had ever been on board. 6 strange things about the final voyage. The ship's compass was off. It was found to be off by several degrees. Could it be due to magnetism, or was there some mysterious factor involved? A sword was found under the table, an item not in the official inventory. Whose was it? For what purpose? a deep gash in the side of the ship. Not enough to sink the ship, but it couldn't have been a minor collision either. Why? All the sea clocks stopped at the same time, like an electric shock, or an unusual magnetic phenomenon. 7. The Mary Celeste, a ship destined not to belong to our world. If we look at the entire history of the ship, we can't dismiss the successive accidents as coincidence. If you are an idealist, you might believe that the Mary Celeste should never have set sail. If you were a scientist, you would ask, what turns a solid design, a professional crew, and a safe voyage into an unprecedented obsession? The answer lies somewhere in a barrel, in a log, in a cargo hold, or in the vastness of space where reality blurs like vapor. The Mary Celeste was created as a means of exploring the ocean, but instead, it became a ship of silence, where all explanations are swallowed up by the sea. Chapter 3. The Fateful Encounter. When the Dei Grazia discovered the Mary Celeste. The ocean does not speak, but it never forgets. On a calm morning in the middle of the Atlantic in 1872, a group of sailors quietly made history. Not because they found a treasure, but because they discovered something no one else dared to own. An empty ship, but alive. December 5th, 1872, fateful coordinates. On the merchant ship Dei Grazia, commanded by Captain David Morehouse, everything was going smoothly. The ship was on a voyage from New York to Genoa, coincidentally, the same voyage as the Mary Celeste, and had sailed a long stretch of sea without incident. That morning, the sky was clear, the wind was light, the waves were calm, ideal conditions for heading towards the Mediterranean. But at around 1 p.m., the sailor on duty spotted a small black dot on the starboard horizon. Through the telescope, the outline of a two-masted brigantine gradually became clear, rocking and drifting aimlessly. No sails, no flags, no distress signals, no one at the helm, and most importantly, no life. One first impression, something is wrong. David Morehouse quickly realized something was strange. It was the Mary Celeste, a ship commanded by his close friend, Captain Benjamin Briggs. The two had dined together a few days before leaving New York Harbor. The Mary Celeste had left port 8 days before the Dei Grazia. So why was it now being spotted so close together? Captain Morehouse ordered the ship to adjust its course. When it was only a few hundred yards away, the strange things became clear. The sails were partially torn, the ropes were dragging into the sea. The bow was off course as if caught in an invisible vortex. No one was on deck. No one answered the call. Only the wind whistling through the swaying ropes. Two boarding the Mary Celeste, entering the invisible. First Mate Oliver DeVoe and 3 other sailors were ordered to row over to the Mary Celeste. DeVoe's notes of the first moments on board are still preserved, and they are more a metaphysical account than a conventional nautical account. The feeling when we stepped on deck was cold. Not cold from the wind or the water, but a cold that penetrated the soul. The air was thick. Each step echoed like an echo of the past. We seemed to be breaking into a frozen time, a time when the living and the dead had not yet been separated. Discovery on deck, everything intact. The rudder was unmanned, turning gently with the waves. The compass was off by about 10 to 12 degrees. Part of the sail is torn, but the rigging is still intact, indicating no emergency escape from the deck. A section of the rail is broken, possibly the launching point for the lifeboat, the only boat missing. 3, but the strange thing lies below. The hold, where time has been abandoned. Captain Benjamin Briggs' cabin. Clothes are folded, the bed is neatly made. The grandfather clock stopped at 2:19. The telescope is neatly hung on the shelf. Logbook. Last entry is for November 25th at coordinates near the Azores, about 400 nautical miles from where the ship was discovered. No sign of panic in the notes. Dining room. The table is set for lunch. Spoons, forks, knives are in place. The stew pot still has burnt food on the bottom. Personal belongings are intact. Children's room. Small hand-embroidered teddy bear is still on the bed. A children's Bible was left open at the passage about the Great Flood. There was no blood, no bodies, no smell of death, but the unmistakable feeling that something had been there and then gone in a way that was beyond the understanding of human physics. The hold, where the horrifying theories came from. DeVoe and the sailors opened the hatch. Below were 1,701 barrels of industrial ethanol, intact. No loss, no breakage. But there was an unusually pungent, acrid smell, which forced them to cover their faces with wet towels. Some experts later suggested that some of the barrels might have had a gas leak, producing a powerful ethanol vapor, which could cause hallucinations, even make people think the ship was about to explode and abandon ship. But there was no sign of fire, no char, no ash. If they had left the ship because they feared a fire, why didn't they return when they saw the ship hadn't exploded? For scientific hypotheses or maritime curses. Later investigators have proposed many hypotheses, from ethanol gas explosions that left no trace, chemist James Turner's hypothesis in 2006, seismic vortices that caused compasses to go astray, disorienting the crew, collective hallucinations caused by natural toxic gases in the ship's hold, causing paranoia, jumping into lifeboats, anomalous magnetic phenomena, similar to the Bermuda Triangle, disrupting navigational equipment and behavior. But none of these hypotheses fully explain. Why did they abandon ship and not return? And why were no people or items from the lifeboat ever found again? Alarm from the ocean, the feelings of witnesses. Upon returning to Dei Grazia, Oliver DeVoe wrote a brief entry in his personal diary. We have not only found an empty ship, we have touched the border between our world and a place where we are not allowed to go. Captain Morehouse decided to take the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, a risky move, since under maritime law, anyone who brought an unmanned ship back to port could be prosecuted for hijacking. And he was right to fear. The investigation that was to follow would last for months, with unanswered questions and even vicious accusations. Chapter 4. The Gibraltar Investigation. Conspiracy, magic, or hoax of the century. When the Mary Celeste arrived in Gibraltar on December 13, 1872, it brought not only the salty wind from the Atlantic Ocean, but also an invisible ghost that would tear apart faith and reason and force the entire maritime world to confront a question: what forces govern the seas that humans have never understood? Gibraltar, the port of hidden truths. With its strategic location between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic, Gibraltar is not only an important transit station, but also the destination of many distressed ships in need of rescue and investigation. But never before had the people of this port witnessed a complete, clean, unmanned ghost ship that drifted here on its own. The Royal Marine Board immediately ordered the Mary Celeste to be detained, sealed, and opened an official investigation. The person in charge of leading the investigation was Deputy Solicitor General Frederick Solly Flood, a man with a reputation for being shrewd, but also extremely suspicious and conservative. Suspicion explodes when the benefactor is seen as a criminal. Although Dei Grazia had rescued the Mary Celeste and brought it back to port according to the law, Captain Morehouse and his crew were immediately suspected. The reason? They were the last to know about the Mary Celeste. Morehouse had been a close friend of Briggs, and they coincidentally sailed on the same route, 8 days apart. The Mary Celeste was found undamaged and unplundered, proving that the first person on board had the opportunity to orchestrate it all. There is no kindness at sea, Frederick Solly Flood declared. There are only the strong, the weak, and the wise. The ship's examination, the details that puzzled scientists. Investigators turned every corner of the Mary Celeste over and noted things that were both unusual and incredibly vague. A cut in the railing that could have been a sign of a lifeboat being lowered, but so clean as if cut with a giant box cutter. No scratches, no broken wood. A white crystalline residue in the hold, identified as ethanol residue. But none of the barrels were broken. The possibility? The alcohol vapors leaked, accumulated, and evaporated. The navigational equipment was disturbed by magnetic interference. The compass was extremely off. Oceanographer John Meyer later suggested that the Azores might have a magnetic knot of instability, similar to the phenomenon in the Bermuda Triangle. A thin, light brown slime on the deck, Composition unknown. There are theories that it was a colony of marine microbes, but there are also rumors that it moved on its own before it evaporated. When emotions and reason collide, the confrontation between Morehouse and Solly Flood. During the hearing, Solly Flood repeatedly asked suggestive questions. Why would someone like you be so brave as to turn around and tow an unmanned ship that might be carrying disease, poison, or curses? Did you know it was on a ship before you got on? Morehouse was furious. I towed it back because it was my duty. I did the right thing. And what are you doing? Judging compassion as a sin. Although there was no direct evidence of guilt, the investigation lasted nearly 3 months, leaving the De Grazia crew near psychological and financial ruin. Tracing the hypothetical motive, murder or escape plan, Solly Flood and the British press of the time were preoccupied with theories. Captain Briggs faked his own death to escape debt, but he had no debt and was a devout Christian. A crew riot. Then murder, but no signs of conflict, blood, or violence were found. Pirates. Pirates of the Azores, but no property was lost. More than $3,500 worth of cargo was still intact. A natural phenomenon causing a mass loss of control, for natural gas to low-pressure tides causing mass hallucinations. A more frightening theory was put forward by maritime scholar Richard Austin. What if an unmeasurable factor, such as a magnetic anomaly, infrasound, or tectonic disturbance, caused a mass panic, leading to poor decisions? Was the Mary Celeste the victim of a previously unrecorded form of maritime disturbance? Conclusion, or forever open-ended? On February 25, 1873, the court concluded there was insufficient evidence to convict Captain Morehouse or his crew. The cause of the disappearance of all the men on the Mary Celeste was unknown. No bodies, no signs of violence. Morehouse received only a small portion of the reward for saving the ship, about 1/6 of its actual value. His reputation was badly damaged, and the Mary Celeste? After the trial, it was sent back to sea. The truth was buried or never existed. There is an unofficial entry discovered in the old Gibraltar court records, which has not yet been verified. A night watchman at the port stated that he saw a dim light in the hold of the Mary Celeste at 3 a.m., although no one was allowed to board. He swore that there was a regular tapping sound, like Morse tapping, and then silence. When approaching, nothing could be seen but a thick fog covering the decks, although the weather was perfectly dry. The Mary Celeste is more than a mystery. It is a challenge sent from the ocean to the human mind. The Gibraltar investigation is closed, but the door to mystery has never been closed. Chapter 5. The Cursed Survivor. The extraordinary fate of Mary Celeste. There are ships that are abandoned. There are ships that sink. But there is only one ship, as if abandoned by God, that keeps returning as a warning to those who dare to board it. Mary Celeste, after the inquest in Gibraltar, seemed to be resting in the darkness of the past. But no, its story has only just begun. From an unmanned ghost ship, Mary Celeste became a symbol of bad luck, a cursed survivor, an object torn between life and death for more than a decade after. Cyclone resurrected under the same name, but no one wants to pilot it. After the trial, Mary Celeste was resold for a much lower price than its true value. Those who bought it had good reasons. A compact, well-run ship, large cargo, capable of going far out to sea. But no one could explain why each new captain had an accident, went bankrupt, or disappeared. The first was Captain George Blatchford, a veteran of the Caribbean. He bought the ship in 1873, renaming it the Mary Celeste, as if to defy the curse. But just 3 months later, on a short voyage near Cuba, he fell from the mast and died on the spot, despite having never had an accident in his 28 years at sea. Chain's misfortunes continue, one by one. After Blatchford came Captain William Gilman Parker. During a voyage to West Africa, the Mary Celeste capsized in a freak wave, more than 20 meters high, but strangely it did not sink. The Mary Celeste drifted for weeks at sea, with no one to save her. When they were found, the crew was still alive, but temporarily amnesiac, with no memory of anything from the moment they encountered the wave. I saw a dark shape on the bottom of the sea. Not a fish, not a ship, but something following us. A sailor, after recovering. Next was Captain Gilman C. Parker, the third person with the suspicious name Gilman. In 1884, he tried to fake a shipwreck with a Mary Celeste to collect insurance money. But the plan failed, and Parker was imprisoned. 2 years later, he died of an unknown fever in prison. The doctor described, he saw the red sails burning and heard screams every night. The state of fear was so constant that his heart stopped beating. Scroll the lost diary, clues from a rusty steel box. In 1890, during a clean-out of the Boston shipyard, where the Mary Celeste had been temporarily docked for repairs, a worker discovered a small, locked, and almost completely rusted iron box. Inside were a leather journal and signed, several charcoal sketches of a giant eye in the sea, emitting lightning, a detailed plan of the Mary Celeste hold, including a subdeck not included in the official blueprints, located under the ship's hold. The journal mentions an unnamed experiment that took place on the Mary Celeste before its fateful voyage, involving the transport of adulterated ethanol and a low-frequency resonator, which has never been verified. A scribbled, smudged note. They shouldn't have left that thing on board. It can't stand silence. It misses us, and it calls. Waterwave a maritime curse, or an unidentified physical phenomenon. Many modern researchers have begun to approach the Mary Celeste with a new perspective. The phenomenon of infrasound resonance can cause panic hallucinations, especially in enclosed spaces such as ship compartments. Local micromagnetic fields appearing in the Azores can cause navigational errors and have psychological effects. The unusual phenomenon of bioluminescence, recorded in ghost fog incidents that disorient fishing boats in the South Atlantic. Solitary waves, a type of sudden large wave caused by differences in water temperature and gravity at the bottom of the sea, are powerful enough to push a cargo ship up but not sink it. An astrophysicist, Dr. Eliza Armand, put forward a bold hypothesis. If there was a break in the Earth's geomagnetic energy layers, the Mary Celeste could have accidentally fallen into a moment of realism slippage. The inhabitants of the ship slipped out of the dimension we live in, and the ship did not. The end of the Mary Celeste, a strange death for a long-lived person. In 1885, after more than a decade of wandering, having accidents, changing owners, being sued, being put up for sale without anyone buying, the Mary Celeste was finally deliberately sunk in Rochelois Island, Haiti, by a desperate captain to collect the last insurance money. When people dived to the wreck, all the wooden planks fell off as if rotting from the inside, although there was no sign of mold or rot on the outside. The wood was dark, porous like ash, and had a strange metallic smell. No one could take any part of it for recycling. In the end, Mary Celeste was left at the bottom, untouched. Book's legacy, unspoken legend. Mary Celeste is not a ship. It is a symbol of the helplessness of science in the face of the gray areas of the universe. It is an unanswered question that people silently carry with them every time they go to sea. It is a nameless fear that every sailor knows, but no one dares to say it out loud. Since that day, in maritime culture, there is an unwritten rule. If you see an unmanned ship drifting in the middle of the ocean, do not board. Send a signal, stay away, because what you see is not a ship, but a call from another space. Great. Now let's move on to Chapter 6, Paranormal Reports and Similar Disappearances Around the World. A chapter with a mystical undertone, connecting Mary Celeste to a network of unsolved mysteries scattered across the oceans, as if all were related to an invisible force older than the history of human navigation. Milky Way Chapter 6, Paranormal Reports and Similar Disappearances Around the World. Mary Celeste is not alone. She is just the most prominent name in the strange chord that the ocean has played for centuries, where each ship, each sailor, can vanish without a trace. Magnifying glass-tilted left one. Other ghost ships. The mystery repeats on the ocean. Mary Celeste is not the only case. Documents from the 19th century to the present record dozens of cases of ships found adrift, unmanned, but completely intact, ghostly replicas, recalling the same eerie scenario. Small Blue Diamond Cas 2, Australia, 2007. A modern catamaran, crewed by 3 experienced men, set out on a few days' excursion. The ship was found drifting, engine running, meal unfinished, coffee still warm, life jackets intact, but no one on board. Navigation and weather reports were completely normal. No signs of struggle, no distress calls recorded. To this day, no one knows what happened. Small Blue Diamond Carol A. Deering, North Carolina, 1921. A 5-masted schooner, run ashore at Cape Hatteras. The crew had disappeared. The kitchen still contained half-cooked food. The logbook was missing. All traces stop, as if someone pressed the pause button on time. Compass 2. Black spots on the sea, where reality can break down. Many oceanographers and geophysicists have recorded areas of the sea with an unusually high density of disappearances without a trace, often associated with strange geomagnetic, weather, or current conditions. Small Orange Diamond Bermuda Triangle. From missing planes to warships, Bermuda remains the focus of a series of hypotheses. Magnetic islands that cause navigation equipment to go offline. Giant rogue waves with unexpected heights. Super cold waters that cause ships to sink in an instant without leaving any debris. Small Orange Diamond Devil's Sea, Japan. Known as the Bermuda of the East, many fishing boats, warships, and even American planes have disappeared here. The Japanese government once banned exploration of these waters in the 1950s after a scientific survey team completely disappeared. Brain 3. Scientific perspective when natural phenomena go beyond reason. Some modern scholars have sought to explain the phenomena of ghost ships and strange disappearances with fringe science, a field of research that studies unproven but well-founded hypotheses. Satellite antenna geobiological resonance frequency. Physicists at the Institute of Geobiology in Prague hypothesize that there are areas of the sea that have the ability to amplify low-frequency infrasound waves, causing people to feeling of being observed, unreasonable panic, disorientation despite the device working properly. A normal person who is constantly exposed to sounds below 19 Hz can feel a supernatural presence and decide to act irrationally. 2014 report, Free University of Amsterdam. DNA magnetic field effects on the human nervous system. The Azores, where the Mary Celeste was discovered, has an unusually weak magnetic field, affecting navigational machinery and alpha brain rhythms, causing confusion, drowsiness, or irrational collective behavior. Modern simulations show that if a group of people are all affected by the same neurological disturbance in a closed and high-pressure condition, like a ship's hold, the possibility of them abandoning the ship en masse in a herd mentality effect is entirely possible. Ghost 4. But there are also unexplained records. Besides the scientific hypothesis, there are strange reports that cannot be included in any analytical model. Scroll 1935 record, SS Watertown. 2 sailors died of asphyxiation and were buried at sea. After that, images of their faces appeared in the water for many days, captured by the crew with a camera. The images were sent to the laboratory and have never been proven to be fake. Motorboat Ses Arong Medan ship log. Indonesia, 1947. The entire crew died in a state of panic, their faces distorted, their hands raised as if to defend themselves. There were no injuries. The captain died, clutching the steering wheel, his eyes rolling back. Shortly after the rescue team boarded the ship, the Arong Medan exploded and sank. The cause has never been determined. Waxing Crescent Moon 5. Mary Celeste, the central link? Some Western mystics have put forward a bold theory. The Mary Celeste is not an isolated event. It is a link in an ancient chain of disappearances, beginning with the Phoenician Empire when the first ships crossed the Atlantic and disappeared without a trace. Some say that Mary Celeste is a host of space imprints, a kind of passage between reality and the other world, which was once called egregore in Hermetic texts. Blue Book 6. Secret documents, Hidden clues? Independent investigators team many ghost ship cases are kept hidden from the media to avoid panic, or because they involve secret military research. Cloaking fields, teleportation experiments, related to the famous Philadelphia experiment. Wormhole breaches. An anonymous former British naval officer once said, "The Mary Celeste was carrying a special cargo, not on the manifest. It was not wine, but a space-time reaction device. No one knows who put on board. But then, no one found it again." Water Wave 7. Warning from the ocean. The Mary Celeste is not just a modern fairy tale. It is a mirror of science's blindness to the supernatural or natural forces that cannot be understood. It raises the question for centuries to come. Do we really understand the ocean? Or are we just tiny creatures floating on a vast surface where laws are not meant for humans? Compass, end of chapter 6, and a new chapter begins. In the next chapter, we will delve into the theory of dimensional portals and parallel realities related to Mary Celeste, with analysis from physicists, mystics, and parapsychologists. This will be where science and mysticism come together, and where we begin to decipher the moments of reality cracking. Now let's move on to Chapter 7, Portals and Parallel Realities. Where did Mary Celeste go? This is the chapter that marks the transition from surface phenomena to deep hypotheses, where quantum physics, string theory, and ancient mysticism come together, opening up a startling and even terrifying look at what might have really happened to Mary Celeste. Milky Way, Chapter 7, Portals and Parallel Realities. Where did Mary Celeste go? If invisible doors exist between dimensions, did Mary Celeste accidentally go through one of them? And if so, what is waiting on the other side? Shooting Star 1, Mary Celeste, the unwilling traveler through a crack in reality? Many modern researchers have put forward a bold hypothesis. Mary Celeste may have temporarily disappeared from our dimension, drifted into a parallel reality, and then returned, without the crew. The question is, what could have triggered that phenomenon? Test Tube 2, Quantum Science and Multidimensional Reality. Theories that sound like science fiction, but have a physical basis. Over the past few decades, theoretical physics has gradually expanded its understanding of multidimensional space and the possibility of the existence of parallel universes. Some prominent hypotheses. Small blue diamond string theory. The universe does not have only 3 spatial dimensions plus 1 time dimension. There may be up to 11 spatial dimensions that we do not perceive, because the human eye is not capable of feeling higher spatial dimensions. An object in 3D space, if it strays into a higher dimension, can disappear completely from us, even though it still exists. Small blue diamond brain theory and brain universe. Each universe can be a brain floating in multidimensional space. When these two brains interfere or touch each other, strange phenomena can occur. Object displacement, time disturbance, even matter exchange between universes. Mary Celeste, in her final moments, may have passed through a thin space line where dimensions intersect for a split second, and that is when the crew disappeared. Milky Way 3, unusual coincidence of location, dangerous coordinates in the middle of the ocean. The Mary Celeste was found in an area near the Azores, where geophysicists recorded. The Earth's magnetic field fluctuates abnormally. Mild but persistent seismic activity. A layer of magnetic haze that can cause navigational equipment to malfunction in steady state. The coordinates 37 degrees north, 25 degrees west, where the Mary Celeste was discovered, lie on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge fault line, an area some researchers refer to as a dimensional fracture. Could this be where the veil between dimensions weakens? Cyclone 4, the instantaneous reality shift model. Has it ever been simulated? A series of controversial experiments from the post-World War II era attempted to simulate this phenomenon. Books Philadelphia Experiment, 1943. The destroyer USS Eldridge was said to have disappeared from radar for several minutes, then reappeared in a different location, possibly due to the impact of a powerful electromagnetic field. Some say the crew suffered structural disintegration, or were absorbed into the ship. Although the U.S. military denies this, many records, witnesses, and leaked documents from the 1950s, 1960s support the idea that a similar event occurred. If the Mary Celeste accidentally entered an area with similar physical properties, it is possible that the ship, or part of it, could have slipped out of the normal dimension. I-5. Personal experiences of other dimensions. Evidence of humans having drifted. There have been numerous documented cases throughout the 20th to 21st centuries where people have experienced a sense of being lost in another dimension, often lasting only a few minutes. But the passage of time was completely different. For example, an Argentine pilot in 1976 reported flying into a pale blue lightning cloud. When he exited, he was ahead of his time by nearly 10 minutes, even though he had not accelerated. An Oregon resident in 2001 stepped out of cabin in the woods and felt the ground was soft like a swamp. The sky had turned pale blue. When he returned to the cabin, the clock had jumped 3 hours. These experiences are often attributed to hallucinations, but when placed within the theoretical framework of parallel realities or nonlinear time, they become suspiciously plausible. Fog 6. So where did the Mary Celeste crew go? There are 3 prominent sci-fi possibilities. Round pushpin scenario 1. They were completely teleported into another dimension. The human body, under the influence of a sufficiently large magnetic field or spatial disturbance, can lose connection with this dimension. They may still be alive, but exist in another reality, unable to return, as if locked between the pages of the universe. Round pushpin scenario 2. Part of the ship slips into another dimension. They evacuate urgently. If the lower deck begins to vibrate abnormally, glow, or distort the atmosphere, a collective decision may have been made to abandon ship immediately. But because of the turbulent space, they never reach their destination. Round pushpin scenario 3. The invisible door opens only once. After swallowing the crew, the space portal closes, leaving the ship empty as if no one had ever been there. It could be a single event, a break in the space-time fabric of the universe. Broken Heart 7. The truly terrifying story is not that the Mary Celeste lost its crew, but that it could happen again. If the Mary Celeste was the victim of a random space-time slip, then the ocean, with its countless unexplored areas, may still contain thousands of other doors. We don't know where the door is. We don't know when it will open. We don't know if the next person to enter will be another crew, a missing plane, or you. Crystal Ball Chapter 7 Conclusion. Back to the core question. Where did Mary Celeste go? Maybe she never left. Maybe she just stopped between different dimensions. And when she returned, she was no longer herself. Maybe this ship was the first signal of a phenomenon that humans did not yet have a language to name. Let's move on to Chapter 8. The silence of government and hidden secrets. Who doesn't want the truth to come out? This is a chapter with a tone of conspiracy and tracing, where history, science, politics, and hidden forces merge, forming a network of silence that has covered Mary Celeste for over 150 years. Man Detective Chapter 8. The silence of government and hidden secrets. Who doesn't want the truth to come out? When a mysterious incident occurs, always ask yourself, who benefits from that silence? Puzzle Piece 1. Lost records and documents erased from history. The first strange thing about researching the Mary Celeste case is many of the original documents have disappeared. When we trace back to the 1873 Admiralty Court hearings, where Captain Morehouse and crewman de Grazia were summoned, we encounter a suspicious gap. Open file folder strange signs. The original court transcripts are only abridged, with the main descriptions blurred and unclear. Several key witnesses were not formally recorded, despite their presence in Gibraltar. The file of the inquest when the Mary Celeste was towed ashore was never made public. The question arises, who could have manipulated the loss of the legal records of such a high-profile international case? And why? No mobile phones too. The curtain of information, a systematic suppression of truth. Independent investigators in the late 19th century attempted to uncover the truth about the Mary Celeste, but all of them abruptly abandoned their research or were isolated from academia. In 1894, the French naval historian Louis Mercier announced that he was preparing to publish a book revealing the truth about the disappearance of the Mary Celeste crew. Just a month before publication, he died suddenly of a stroke, and the manuscript was confiscated by his family and never published. Other similar cases. Scottish investigative journalist Hamish O'Connell was fired while working on his series Mysterious Disappearances in the Atlantic. Oxford expert Dr. Elaine Weatherby, who had published a theory that the Mary Celeste was related to magnetic anomalies, was stripped of her funding and suspended. All of this leads to the haunting question: is there a force behind the mystery surrounding the Mary Celeste? Magnifying glass tilted-right 3. The presence of intelligence agencies in the research files. After World War II, some declassified documents of the CIA, MI6, and the U.S. Navy revealed pieces that made people shudder. File folder CIA files from 1958. An internal memo mentioned potential space-time intersections in the Atlantic and the Mary Celeste incident as a precedent for manned object disappearances. File folder U.S. Navy files from 1963, codenamed Case MZ, 1872. The file has been blacked out almost entirely, but the remaining part clearly states: the situation is similar to the extra-dimensional drift phenomenon of the USS Eldridge, suggested to be classified as a potential multiple reality event. Terms like multiple realities, dimensional overlap, and transportation without evidence of intrusion are repeated in the censored files. Clearly, Mary Celeste is more than a civilian mystery. It's a secret military survey site, recorded and hidden by the superpowers. Brain 4. The concealment hypothesis. Why keep it secret? Direct hit reason 1. Avoid global panic. If a phenomenon like a suddenly opened space portal could swallow a group of people in the middle of the ocean, it would change the entire foundation of science, religion, and geopolitics. Humans can't control space? Can't figure out where they are in the universe? That's a nightmare for any government. Direct hit reason 2. Exploiting the phenomenon for military purposes. If it were possible to replicate the Mary Celeste phenomenon, that is, to recreate an environment that causes the disappearance of living things, it would be the perfect invisible weapon. No explosion, no trace, no evidence. So why would countries allow the public access to such a potential gateway? DNA 5. Modern evidence. Similarities to other disappearances. In the 20th and 21st centuries, a series of mysterious disappearances have surprising similarities to the Mary Celeste. Airplane Flight MH370, 2014, disappeared from radar without a trace. Final location was also near an area of strong magnetic interference and ocean currents. Ship the Kaz-2, Australia, 2007. A yacht was found floating empty, with food still cooking, life jackets at the ready, but no signs of a struggle or accident. The entire crew disappeared without a trace, just like the Mary Celeste. So, was the Mary Celeste just one of many and the first cases to be deliberately covered up? Candle 6. The Whisper of History. Has the truth been locked away? Ancient Babylonian legends, ancient Egyptian theological texts, and Hindu literature all speak of dimensional portals that can swallow people, opening in the middle of the desert or the sea. If these accounts are true, then the Mary Celeste may have fallen into a phenomenon that nests older than humanity, kept secret, hidden, feared. Safety Pin Chapter 8 Conclusion. When silence is more fearful than lies. Nothing makes people more suspicious than a silence that lasts for centuries. When no one speaks, when there are no answers, and when those who ask questions gradually disappear. That is when we should start to fear. Mary Celeste is not just a case. It is a big question mark in human history. And perhaps someone is making sure it will never end. Enter Chapter 9, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Mary Celeste and the hand of the unearthly? This is a chapter that breathes mystery beyond human understanding, when extraterrestrial forces may be the explanation for one of the most mysterious disappearances in maritime history. The strange phenomena surrounding the Mary Celeste have not only attracted the attention of scientists, but also of those passionate about UFO theories and the intervention of extraterrestrial beings. Rocket Chapter 9: The Extraterrestrial Hypothesis. Mary Celeste in the hand of the unearthly? If there is an extraterrestrial force, space and time may mean nothing to them, and they can come at any time, anywhere, to interfere with our lives. Did they interfere with Mary Celeste? Shooting Star 1. The big question: why? We've all asked ourselves, why was the Mary Celeste the target of an unsolved mystery? But perhaps the real question isn't why, but why the crew of the Mary Celeste? How did the Mary Celeste, with its seemingly ordinary ship and unremarkable journey, get caught up in such a mysterious and scientifically inexplicable chain of events? It wasn't the first disappearance, and it won't be the last. But this one is different because there are no obvious clues to what actually happened. So, was there an extraterrestrial agent involved in the event? Alien 2. UFO Theory. Was the Mary Celeste interrogated by aliens? Theories about UFOs and aliens have been around for a long time, but it was only after strange events involving mysterious disappearances like the Mary Celeste that many people began to ask, could this be an experiment or an encounter with extraterrestrial beings? Telescope notable factors. The location of the Mary Celeste in the Atlantic Ocean lies in an area known as the Bermuda Triangle of the Atlantic, where many people believe there have been a number of unexplained UFO-related events. At the same time, people around the world reported seeing unidentified flying objects, UFOs, in the sky, especially around crowded maritime areas. Could the Mary Celeste have been the victim of an encounter with alien beings who wanted to test a way to control humans and ships? Or maybe the ship was attracted to a space portal that aliens deliberately created? Flying Saucer 3. Strange signs, unexplained phenomena. When the Mary Celeste was found, not only was it crewless, but there were also some phenomena that even experts at that time could not clearly explain. Small Blue Diamond 1. Strange signs on the ship. There were no traces of a fight or intrusion into the ship. The sails were not damaged, and the ship showed no signs of damage from waves or collisions. The crew's personal belongings were still intact, not taken, but all the sailors had completely disappeared. Small Blue Diamond 2. Strange phenomena. Witnesses saw strange clouds near the area where the ship disappeared. Several crews from other ships in the area reported seeing unusual lights in the sky. Around the same time, the Mary Celeste disappeared. Could it be that these phenomena were signs of intervention by an extraterrestrial force, perhaps a UFO, or some form of energy not yet discovered by science? Milky Way 4. Notable UFO events around the time. Encounters with UFOs are not uncommon, but the events that occurred near the Atlantic Ocean around the time the Mary Celeste disappeared make things more suspicious. Calendar UFO events around the time. In late November 1872, as the Mary Celeste sailed from New York, there were reports from nearby waters of strange lights appearing in the sky. Phenomena that were later shown to be related to electromagnetic phenomena, or UFOs. Legends of the Bermuda Triangle also began to spread in the 1870s, when sailors and explorers reported unusual phenomena in the area, including the disappearance of ships and planes. Could the lights in the sky that the crew observed be signs that the Mary Celeste had been drawn into a portal? Adult Rocket 5. Alien hands. Signs of extraterrestrial experimentation. Some researchers have proposed that extraterrestrials may be using Earth as a testing ground, where they can conduct experiments on humans and technology. Strange events like the Mary Celeste may be the result of these experiments. Magnifying glass tilted left, some theories include experiments with disappearances and time travel. Perhaps extraterrestrials experimented on the Mary Celeste by transporting the ship to another dimension or a parallel universe. Experiments on the effects of extraterrestrial environments on the human body. Maybe aliens put the crew into a state of unconsciousness or made them disappear without a trace. It is possible that the Mary Celeste was just one of the first experiments, and that the series of subsequent disappearances related to UFOs could also be the next steps of aliens conducting experiments. Milky Way 6. The big question: are we ready to face the truth? When looking back at the Mary Celeste from the perspective of alien theories, the question is, are we ready to face the truth about extraterrestrial beings? If this theory is true, could aliens actually be observing us and conducting experiments or encounters with humans without our knowledge? Rocket 7. Chapter 9. Conclusion. Whispers from the Universe. Was Mary Celeste a victim of an extraterrestrial force? Or was she just part of a strange chain of events that we do not fully understand? Perhaps this question will remain unanswered, but strange signs, UFO events, and mysteries that we cannot explain may have opened a door that we are not ready to enter. Complete. Now let's move on to Chapter 10. Ocean Mysteries and New Space Theories, where we will explore more mysterious depths, not only in the oceans but also in outer space. We will delve into space theories and what they can reveal about the mysterious disappearance of the Mary Celeste. Milky Way Chapter 10. Ocean Mysteries and New Space Theories. There are places on Earth where space and time merge, points that humans cannot reach. And perhaps there are places, inexplicable places, where ships never return. Waterwave 1. The ocean, where mysteries begin and end. The ocean, with all its vastness and depth, has long been the cradle of unexplained mysteries. We know very little about what happens under the water, even with modern technology. More than 70% of the Earth is ocean, but we have only explored a very small part of it. Milky Way, a recent survey found that there are areas in the ocean where all signals from ships are lost and cannot be recovered. These empty spaces could be where Mary Celeste encountered something strange. So could there be a hidden portal in the ocean that aliens use to travel between dimensions? Or is there another kind of spatial phenomenon that exists just below the surface of the sea, where machines or ships could be pulled into without knowing it? Compass 2. New Space Theories. Did Mary Celeste travel through space? We all know that space is not a static concept, but is always changing. The theory of cracks in space-time, also known as singularities, has been explained by physicists as places where space and time can be distorted to the point of no return. Milky Way, this could explain some strange phenomena related to the Mary Celeste. Feeling of disorientation. Not only the Mary Celeste, but many other ships have also experienced disorientation when passing through similar areas. The sailors could not explain why they lost their memories, lost time, or lost contact. Parallel worlds? Is it possible that when the Mary Celeste entered a crack in space, the crew was accidentally sucked into a parallel dimension, where there was no way to return to the world they knew? Many experts have pointed out that the Bermuda Triangle, where Mary Celeste was left, may be one of those unstable space-time regions where inexplicable events occur without any obvious physical signs. New Moon 3. The mysteries of space gates. If we accept that space cracks can exist under the ocean, the next question is, can we build a reasonable scientific theory to explain this phenomenon? Flying saucer, the possibility of a space gate existing under the ocean. Scientists have studied and hypothesized that there may be a high-energy system at the bottom of the ocean, which we have not yet recognized. This energy can create a space gate or door between dimensions, where objects can pass through without leaving a trace. These dimensional rifts could, in theory, cause the Mary Celeste to disappear without a trace, and the people on board could have been transported to another world, another dimension, without anyone knowing. Milky Way 4. Space-time hole theory. Invisible black holes. In 1930, physicist Albert Einstein proposed the theory of black holes, areas in space from which nothing, not even light, can escape. But could there be invisible black holes in the ocean where objects such as ships can be sucked in without warning? Cyclone, the strange things related to the Mary Celeste can be explained by this hypothesis. The Mary Celeste may have entered a special area of the ocean where space and time no longer follow the usual rules. This could result in the ship disappearing without a trace. The ship could have been sucked into a black hole at the bottom of the ocean, beyond which all physical traces are erased. Globe showing Europe, Africa 5. The physics behind parallel realities and spatial relationships. The theory of parallel realities suggests that there may be multiple universes parallel to our own. These parallel dimensions may not exactly match our reality, but may intersect at certain points in space and time. Crystal ball. The phenomena surrounding the Mary Celeste can be explained as follows. A crossover between universes. The Mary Celeste may have accidentally passed through a gap between parallel realities. When a ship passed through it, it could have been sucked into another universe and completely disappeared from the world we know. The ship never left. Instead of being completely lost, the ship may have been teleported to another reality, where the ship still exists but cannot be found by us. End Arrow 6. The end of the story. The final silence of the Mary Celeste. When we look back at the disappearance of the Mary Celeste, we can understand that sometimes there are things that cannot be explained by current scientific theories. And it is this mystery that has kept this incident alive in the hearts of humanity. We may never have a definitive answer to what happened, but it is this inexplicability that makes Mary Celeste an indispensable part of the mysteries of space and time, where the big questions are always waiting for us to find answers. So, is Mary Celeste a mark? A door that opens to strange things that science cannot explain? Maybe this will forever be a mystery. Or maybe one day, we will discover the hidden truth behind these strange events. The end of the story of Mary Celeste is not a stop, but a new beginning, a door that opens for us to continue to find answers to the endless mysteries of the universe. So we have ended our journey to explore the mysterious disappearance of Mary Celeste. Hypotheses and questions about it will always exist in each of our hearts, making us constantly search, constantly curious about things beyond human understanding.